Matt Lenihan Boxing Social in association with Forged Irish Stout, freebets.com and Empire Fight Store. We're here. Matchroom HQ, Frank Smith. How are we doing, pal?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Good to have you here ahead of a big Next Gen show Saturday night.
Absolutely. We'll come on to the Next Gen show in a minute. Obviously, I think you know where we're going to start. Sort of earlier on today, Eddie Hearn come out and did a video and said there will be an offer going into Gervonta Davis for Conor Benn. This back and forth between Conor Benn and other fighters, especially from the US side, it's been going on now for the last 12 months. Errol Spencer's come out and said a bit, and a few others. Are there any legs in this Gervonta Davis thing? Do you believe with putting an offer and working with that team that you can get something done?
I believe so. Gervonta's the one who's been calling it out. Everyone's been calling out Conor Benn. He's the name everyone wants to fight right now. So I haven't seen Eddie's interview from earlier. So I don't know everything he said in there, but yeah, we'll definitely be getting something across. And it's a massive fight. But like I say, every person is calling out Conor Benn right now, and it's the fight people want to make.
In terms of Gervonta and working with the side over there, the PBC guys, I can't remember the last time there was a joint sort of fight. I think it might have been James DeGale, Badu Jack, all them years ago. When you look at that now, we're seeing a lot of things in boxing, big fights getting made, especially the Saudi side, yourselves, Frank Warren, Queensberry. Is that the only sort of gap left to sort of bridge, really, in terms of making these big fights?
As far as I'm aware, Gervonta Davis, he promotes himself. He's got his own promotional company that he uses, and he's his own promoter. Obviously, he was promoted by Mayweather Promotions for a long time, but that was, I think, quite publicly that's all finished now, and he's his own promoter. So, I think there's definitely opportunity to work with Gervonta Davis on this fight.
Would you prefer, if that fight was to come off to happen in stateside, or to bring Gervonta over to the UK? Obviously, everyone over here is sort of a big star in boxing, so people will stay up, but they'd like a glimpse of him in the UK. Would you like it over here as opposed to the US?
I think financially, to make it happen, obviously he's just come off a massive fight against Ryan Garcia. US pay-per-view numbers are huge, and I think really the US is most realistic. I know, though, he said on multiple occasions, he said recently, didn't he, that he wants to fight in the UK, and his next fight will be in the UK. So anything's possible, but I think in reality the US is most likely for a fight involving him.
I saw DMs released, I think it might have even been by Conor now, but regarding Adrian Broner. I think we've been down this road once before when there was talks of Conor before everything with the ban and things like that. Any legs in Adrian Broner? Obviously, big name, big personality, 4-weight world champion. It'd be a good build-up.
Yeah, possibly. I think it's the most unlikely one, though, to be honest. Adrian Broner does a lot of calling out. I think that's the least realistic one. But look, every name, as I say, is calling out Conor Benn. Every person, whether it's 147, 154, everyone's calling out his name. So there's a big fight out there to be made for Conor Benn, and he'll be out very soon.
If it isn't one of them two names, Conor's obviously been asking for big fights even before the comeback fight against Orozco, I believe, and then obviously he's had the Peter Dobson fight. The next one that has to be surely a bigger jump in terms of quality. 100%,
and that's what we're focused on, is delivering the biggest possible fight for Conor Benn. Even prior to everything that's gone on, he wanted the biggest fights possible. He was always calling out names. He was never shying away from any challenge, and that hasn't changed now. So we're set on making a massive fight for Conor Benn. That's our job, that's our aim, and we'll deliver that.
Over here domestically, Josh Kelly, I know it's a different curveball, but Josh is on the rise, at the minute as well. He's got a good set of wins together. He'll be looking at moving on to sort of world level soon. That was a fight that was talked about years ago. Is there anything that could be done there? Would he be considered? If not, would that be a big enough fight for you guys to make for Conor?
I don't think he's the right kind of name for what we're looking to do. You look at the types of names in terms of the commercial profile we're talking about here, whether that be Gervonta Davis, whether that be Adrian Broner, whether that be Chris Eubank Jr., even Liam Smith's been spoken about as well, Kell Brook. They're all much bigger names in reality than Josh Kelly. I'm not saying that fight never happens, but I don't think that's the kind of fight for next in terms of commercial size, honestly.
Does he need that sort of step in between going up to that world level? Like the fighters he's been in with now, everyone talks about the Algeria win, sort of back end his career, terrific performance, not taking anything away from him. But there's almost feel like this jump now is going to be a big jump rather than, maybe you have Avenisians and Kellys, it's a big jump. Do you see where I'm coming from in terms of it's probably a bigger reward, but the risk's a lot bigger instead of just going up naturally?
I think it's a jump he would have been willing to take 2 years ago. You know, he would, like I say, he wanted the biggest fights possible. He's never sort of pushed for anything but that. I think a big difference here is he's been really out of the ring for a year and a half, essentially. You know, he's had the recent fights, but he wants to get back active and he wants to make up for lost time. And to make up for lost time, it's about going into those biggest fights possible, and that's what he's telling us, and that's what we'll deliver for him.
Chris Eubank Jr., that fight dead in the water?
Dead in the water in a sense that it's not made, just like all the other fights aren't made. We've done so much talking about it. I would still love to see it personally. Like me personally speaking, I would love to make that fight. But it takes everyone being on ball for it to get it done. But at some point in my lifetime, I think we will see it.
What date are we looking at in terms of finding out about this appeal? Because a lot of it, I suppose, hinges on that, whether Conor, you guys win this appeal and then he can now, pursue this career in the UK rather than going down a different avenue. Have you got a potential end date for this? Because I know he'll be wanting it to end, so when we're looking?
Hopeful very soon. If that process is, hopefully we're towards the back part of that now. And yeah, a lot of things rely off the back of what happens here. So, hopefully over the next 2-3 or so weeks, we'll be in a clear position.
Have you been given an indication of what position you're in terms of whether it'll go favourably or not?
It's not, look, it's not, that's something that's dealt with, by parties away from us. We don't get involved in the legal side of it. Both parties will have their own independent legal advisors and they'll be going through that process. But it's not really something, he's won the case already. Mm-hmm. That's what the key thing I think to point out without going into too much detail. He's won the case, and they've decided to appeal it, but he's won it once already. But beyond that, it's not really something we go into too much detail of just now.
Moving away from Conor Benn, Tyson Fury, with everything that's happened in the fallout to this postponement, Tyson obviously a clear cut, looks like damaged scar tissue. He received still some criticism off the back of a video coming out, pictures and everything else. What's your take on that and the criticism he does receive off it? He seemingly from pictures seemed to be in the best shape of his life. You would have thought an athlete at that point would be coming into a peak condition ready. What do you make of sort of the bit of backlash that you suppose he's got from it?
I think obviously when you're someone like a character like Tyson Fury, you have to take the good times with the bad. And when he's reacted to a lot of things over the years, I'm sure, I've seen like the David Haye stuff going back and forward. And he did the same thing to David Haye, for example. Now David Haye's doing it back. You put yourself in a position where when something like this happens, you're going to get that kind of feedback. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Sonny Edwards said. Sonny's like one of the biggest wind-ups on social media and goes for people. He said, obviously now I've lost, all these people are going to come for me and I have to be prepared for it. I'm not saying it's right, by the way. I'm not saying what people are saying on social media about Tyson Fury is right, but that is the reality. I think if you're a reserved character and you don't go out and don't go after then people will maybe take it a bit differently. Tyson's obviously said a lot of things in the past and people are just reacting to that, really. What
did you make of, obviously, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh's reaction when he says, look, he even mentioned his own health and said, I wouldn't put money behind this and this, there'll be a $10 million forfeit. What do you make of how he's handled this? And obviously, we normally wait months to find out what's going to happen, whether it be a rescheduled date. This took days.
Yeah, look, it's a massive fight, and His Excellency obviously is a huge fight fan and wants to see the fight and worked as quickly as possible with their team, I'm sure, to get it together. So I'm not really surprised at that because you've seen the way they do things just generally, and he's buzzing for the fight. I think he said, at one point Fury said I'd still fight with it, but he is a real fight fan, His Excellency, and he wanted to see it with both of them at their peak, physical fitness. And it's been a long time coming, that undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, and I'm glad that there's a date set for it. I know, it's been delayed, but we have a date, and I think everything goes ahead.
Prediction for the fight?
Tyson Fury.
By any method?
I'm not clued up enough on my boxing skills. Great fight though. Yeah. Alexander Usyk, tremendous fighter. Tyson Fury, amazing fight. Size difference. A lot of people talking about that. I'm not the tactician. I hopefully just watch it and get some enjoyment from it.
Right. Last couple from me. a few weeks ago, Belfast, Lewis Crocker put on a terrific performance. Yourselves alongside Conlon Boxing really sort of producing good shows in Ireland. There's a lot of talent out there. Would you like to see, I know we spoke about Lewis Crocker versus Paddy Donovan, have we got any sort of further updates from that on what we could be seeing next? Because there's some huge stars over there who could all potentially headline a show.
Yeah, we're talking about it all now. We're looking at whether to do that fight next or one more possibly before that. One of the fights that's been mentioned a few times is Lewis Crocker against Conor Walker, which would be a great fight as well. But yeah, the Crocker-Donovan fight, I quite openly said I'd love to make that fight next. We're obviously working through the Katie Taylor show as well and the card for that. So it could be that the two of them appear there and then we do it later in the year. There's work being done in the background, hopefully new soon though.
You mentioned Katie Taylor there. Obviously everyone's waiting on a stadium announcement, or if not, back at the arena. Are we close on that now?
Yeah, look, we've had multiple meetings both with Katie in Vegas last week and then Chantel's team the week before to look at that fight. Stadium, we're still waiting through. One of the toughest things is date and availability as well, and getting the right. These stadiums are built for. Obviously Croke is the GAA, and the Aviva has the rugby and football. They've got the Europa Cup final. There's so much going on, and it's not just about getting the date. It's also about the health of the pitch. I've spoken about that a few times, something I don't know enough about. But groundsmen at stadium don't like pitches getting covered ahead of big events, quite obviously. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but the key for us is to create another huge night in Dublin.
This week, let's come on to it. Next Gen show, Dylan Bellotti, a terrific main event. Shannon Ryan back out there. Return of Craig Richards. A lot of good things happening on this card. Just tell us what you're sort of most looking forward to seeing. It's a good card, top to bottom. Yeah,
for sure. I think the Dylan Bellotti fight's a brilliant fight. Look, we saw Bellotti. He's another one of those who you think back 5-6 years ago to where he's and where he is now. That
in fight camp, I think, as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. But that win against Akeem Fiaz, and this could set him up as well for massive fights. But Dylan, a tremendous fighter and a great next gen show. Yeah, Shannon Ryan back out as well. She's got real potential, and we're going to move her quickly after this. It's a shame. We were hoping to do the British title for this one, which would have been, I think, the only second British female title. But we'll get that in due course. Craig Richards back out. Granted, not next gen, and but it was a date that made sense for him, and we wanted to get him back out, and that's the key for it. It was the activity. We're working on some big fights for him this year, so it was just about getting him out, getting him active. Cameron Vong's back out as well. He's a tremendous fighter and doing a lot of talking about what's next, but he's got a test on Saturday as well. I think he's got a massive future, lots to look forward to, and then a host of debutants as well. You got John Hedges back out on the card after a long time out on injury. So yeah, looking forward to the next gen on Saturday.
And last one, final one from me. John Ryder obviously announced his retirement. Pleased to see him sort of go out in that fashion.
Yeah, look, John Ryder. When you think like how long we've been working for him and with him, sort of 12 years now, I think it is. Some of the great fight nights we've had with him. He's had brilliant fights and he's never shied away from a test. He's one of those fighters that has always taken the toughest tests out there. Whether it was the Billy Joe Saunders fight, whether it was the Danny Jacobs fight, whether it was Canelo, whether it was Jaime Munguia in his last fight. He won in Las Vegas on the undercard in an eliminator as well. He's had some tremendous nights, and so good to see someone like John Ryder, who's just such a nice bloke, to be able to retire. He's done very well financially, and has got a plan now beyond boxing, and he deserves everything because he's one of the good guys of the sport.
Yeah, 100% echo that. Frank Smith, I know you've got a meeting now, so I appreciate your time. Thanks for talking to Boxing Social. Catch up later in the week.
Cheers, mate. Good to see you.
We need to think of a new advert for freebets.com.
Get your best betting offers from freebets.com.
Yeah, that'll do.
The following deals are now live.